Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about fractions, decimals, and percent and changing them in between. So for this first one, at the bottom you'll notice what we're going between. So this one is between a fraction and a decimal. So to go from a fraction to a decimal, you're going to do the top dog in the house and divide. If the denominator goes into a 10 or 100 easily, you can also do it that way and change it to a fraction and then change it to a decimal. So I'm going to do it both ways on this one for you. So I know that it can become to 10, so I'm going to times both by 2, and that's 8/10. So when I hear 8/10, it's 8/10 in the tenths place. Okay, so that's one way you can do it. Here, let me move that over closer to that. 8/10. Or if you didn't realize that, you could put 4 in the house, 5 outside. Yes, top dog in the house. You can't go 5 into 4, so you've got to go into 40, raise the roof. 5 goes into 40 8 times. So our answer is 8/10. So 2/3, the denominator 3 can't become 10 or 100. So you got to do top dog in the house. So you got to divide. 3 goes into 2 0 times, raise the roof. It goes into 26 times, and that's 18 with 2 left over. Add another 0, bring it down. Goes in again 6 times. So notice it keeps, oops, it's not that. It's also going to be 18 with a remainder of 2. So notice it's going to keep going. So it is 0 and 66 hundredths repeating. So that line above means it's repeating. You could write it just as this with the line above repeating, and that's fine too. So either one, as long as it's just over the 6, because just the 6 is repeating. So going from the decimal to the fraction, I always say read it with the place value and reading it correctly, write it, simplify it. So if I read this first number, it is 35 hundredths. So 35 hundredths. Okay, if it's in the tenths place, it would be tenths. Write it, and now we simplify it. So I can divide both by 5. And that is 7/20, and that is in simplest form. So the next one is 2 and 4 hundredths. Hundredths, not tenths, hundredths. Remember, tenths and hundredths. I can divide both by 2. And I get 2 the whole number and 2 50ths. And those actually can be divided by 2 again. So that's 2 and 1/25. Okay, make sure you get it in simplest form. So this is the one that's a little bit different, going from the decimal to the percent. Okay, honestly, it's just 100 times bigger. So you just move the decimal back twice. Times 10 or times 100, and that is 5%. Move it back twice, 34%. Move it back twice. This one is going to be, percent is always out of 100, right? The hundredths place, that's why it's 5% and 34%. So this one is 1 whole, so it's going to be 193%. Okay, multiply it by 100. So now, going from the percent to the decimal, you just move the decimal back the other way and you divide the percent by 100. So that's 0 and 36 hundredths. Move it back twice. So it's 0 and 9 hundredths. Move it back twice and it's 1 and 23 hundredths. So to go from the fraction to the percent, you change the fraction to a decimal and then multiply it by 100 or get the denominator to 100, either way. So for this one, I'm going to times it by 2 and get myself to 6/10. Okay, so it's 0.6. Move my decimal back twice, and the answer is 60%. This next one also can get to a denominator of 100, times 4 times 4. 12 times 4 gets me 48, so it is 48% because it's just out of 100. So for this next one, unfortunately, that's not going to become 10, 100, or 1,000. So I'm going to have to top dog in the house and divide. 6 goes into 50, 6 goes into 56 times, which is 48. 2 left over, add the 0 and bring it down. 2 times 16, 4, add the 0. 8 goes into 45 times, so it's 0.625. Okay, you're going to move the decimal back twice, and it's 62.5%. And yes, a percent can be a decimal. Okay. We're going to finish before this 10%. Okay, here we go. Next one, percent to a fraction. So the easiest way is think about it as 100, right? So percent's always out of 100, so it's 33 over 100. Done. Fraction. Okay, the next one, it's 80 out of 100. Again, we got to simplify it always. Divide by 10, because that's what I came up with first. So it's 8 over 10. And then divide by 2, and you get 4/5. Okay, the next one I'm going to do it down here at the end. 92 out of 100. Simplify it. Divide it by 4. Gets me 23/25. Okay, write it over 100 and then simplify it. Percent's always out of 100. So here on these next ones, I want you to go ahead and you're going to change them to all the different versions, and I want you to practice and then come back and check for the key. Okay, 17 over 20. We're going to change it to be a denominator of 100. So we're going to times it by 5. 17 times 5 gets you 85. 85 hundredths. So it's going to be 85 hundredths. And move my decimal over twice. Bloop, bloop. And that is going to be 85%. So there's the decimal and the percent. 7/8, we're going to have to divide that one, unfortunately. Okay. 8 goes into 70 8 times, 64, 6 left over. It goes into 60 7 times, 56, 4 left over, 45 times, 0 left over. 0.875, move the decimal over twice, 87.5%. Okay. So here we go, the next one. Move the decimal back twice, and it gets you 0 and 4/10. If you wrote 40 hundredths, that's okay, either one. And then write it as a fraction. You can do 40 over 100. Divide by 10 gets you 4/10. Divide by 2 gives you 2/5. Okay. 55 hundredths. Okay. So that's an easy one as a decimal, 55 hundredths. And then just simplify, divide by 5. Gets you 11/20. Okay, this last one, 85 hundredths, move the decimal back, 85%. And then 85 over 100, divide by 5, gets you 17/20. This next one is 7/10, okay, tenths. So I am going to move the decimal back twice to get 70%. And then 7/10. Easy peasy, there's your fraction, 7/10. If you wrote 70 hundredths, you know. So, okay, bloop, bloop, 6%. Yes, you have to move it twice. So notice this 7 was in the 10th place, so it was 70. This one is in the hundredths, so it's only 6. So then that's going to be 6 hundredths. Divide both by 2, and you get 3/50. Okay. Make sure to finish all your work, and I hope you enjoyed this video.